Every single time you buy something online or, just watch a new apartment building go up down the street, an absolutely massive, completely invisible logistics network springs into action right under our noses. It's a system we rely on every single day, yet most of us never give it a second thought until our package is delayed. So in this explainer, we're going to make that invisible utility visible, helping everyday people like you and me really understand the lifeblood of our moving cities.
So what actually happens the moment you click that buy button? To figure that out, we're zooming in locally, specifically right to the waterfronts of New York City and a neighborhood called Red Hook, Brooklyn. The choices made along these urban coastlines dictate exactly how your packages, your groceries, and your city's building materials arrive at your door.
Okay, let's get our bearings here. What exactly is a freight system anyway? Well, it's the whole shebang. It's the entire network that moves goods, the trucks, the trains, ships, barges, ports, docks, and the warehouses. It carries literally everything we buy, build, and eat, from the factory floor to where we ultimately use it. Experts tell us we actually need to think of this just like our tap water, electricity, or Wi-Fi. It's a vital utility with constant, non-stop demand. But unlike hidden water pipes, this utility shares the exact same infrastructure that you and I use every single day to commute or drop the kids at school.
And sharing all that road space brings us to a frankly staggering number, 90%. According to regional planning data, 90% of our region's freight currently moves by truck. Think about that for a second. Almost everything we consume, wear, or build with arrives to us on 18 wheels. While trucking is undeniably reliable, relying this heavily on just one single mode of transportation for such a massive market has some pretty profound implications for our daily lives.
Now, cramming all that freight onto our roads, it comes with an eye-watering price tag. The congestion created by this unbelievable volume of trucks translates to a $1 billion annual cost in delays and inefficiencies alone. $1 billion literally just sitting in traffic. And it doesn't stop there. The sheer physical weight of these vehicles absolutely pummels our infrastructure. We're looking at an estimated $27 billion needed over the next 30 years just to repair the local roads and bridges damaged by all these trucks.
But look, it's not just about money and traffic. We absolutely have to talk about the environmental toll. Consider this number, 16. The average age of a truck operating on our local streets right now is 16 years old. That means these are older vehicles and they are heavily polluting the air. They're pumping particulate matter right into the local neighborhoods where we live, work, and breathe.
And here's where things get, honestly, kind of terrifying. We're on a collision course with what experts call a tidal wave of cargo. Historic freight volume has already jumped 50% since the year 2000, but demand is projected to surge by another 45% by 2045. We really have to ask ourselves, if 90% of that massive new volume of cargo is also just slapped onto trucks, where are they all going to fit? Because we certainly aren't building any new highways in our dense cities anytime soon.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what's actually in all these trucks? It's not just those little lightweight cardboard boxes from your online shopping. The top regional commodities are bogged down by incredibly heavy, space-hogging materials. We're talking massive loads of non-metallic minerals like sand, crushed stone, and gravel needed to make concrete. Then there's secondary traffic, which is just the constant, endless shuffling of inventory from one gigantic warehouse to another. And finally, huge volumes of petroleum and coal products. These are definitely not things that travel light. So, if the roads are full, the obvious fix is to just move this heavy stuff by water, right? Well, it turns out you can't just toss a boat in the harbor and call it a day. Shifting freight to water requires a highly specific, step-by-step ecosystem. First, you need the shippers and the local demand. Second, you absolutely must have heavy physical infrastructure. Think specialized docks and giant cranes. Third, that requires significant capital investment in a highly trained workforce. And only then, at step 4, do you finally add the ships and barges. It's like a giant, complex puzzle demanding very specific waterfront real estate.
Which brings us to a really fascinating spot, the Red Hook Container Terminal over in Brooklyn. This facility has an absolutely unique geographic superpower. Get this, it is the only container terminal on the entire geographic span of Long Island equipped with active cranes. The only one. That makes it an irreplaceable maritime asset. It acts as the essential linchpin, bridging the deep ocean shipping lanes directly to our dense urban city demands.
And this sets up the ultimate choice facing regional planners right now. It's basically a showdown. In one corner, the dominant truck freight model. We know it holds a 90% market share, bringing high congestion, heavy emissions, and extreme road wear. But in the other corner, we have the Blue Highways model. This approach uses our existing natural waterways to completely bypass street traffic. It moves massive volumes of goods all at once, dramatically lowering the carbon footprint. It's a highly efficient alternative staring us right in the face.
To really put this into perspective, let's look at a local manufacturer operating right there on the Red Hook waterfront. They make these gigantic precast concrete structures and rock bags used for offshore wind farms and coastal resilience projects. A single one of these rock bags weighs 25,000 pounds. Just imagine trying to maneuver hundreds of 25,000-pound concrete blocks through narrow city streets on a fleet of trucks. It would be an absolute logistical and environmental nightmare.
So how does this actually work? Well, using the Blue Highways concept, it's incredibly seamless. Because they're perched right on the waterfront, they skip the city streets entirely. On day one, all their super heavy raw materials, the sand and stone, arrive entirely by water barge. On day two, the concrete is manufactured right there on site at the port. And on day three, the massive finished products are loaded by crane directly onto outbound barges. This 3-day manufacturing cycle completely bypasses local street traffic from start to finish.
Sounds perfect, right? But here's the catch. There is a major hidden vulnerability, stopping this whole water freight idea from expanding. Over 75% of industrial companies in the city are renters, and the vast majority are on short leases of under 5 years. The problem is, heavy maritime equipment, like those specialized cranes, has a 30-year lifespan. A bank simply is not going to finance a 30-year maritime equipment investment for a business that might lose its lease in 3 years. This real estate instability actively prevents companies from going greener and using our waterways.
To see how this plays out in the real world, let's look at the timeline of a major local rice distributor. It's honestly a bit tragic. In Phase 1, they operated in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, using a rail connection to keep their heavy freight off local trucks. But in Phase 2, due to shifting real estate pressures and commercial development, they lost their lease. By Phase 3, the company was forced to relocate entirely to New Jersey. So now, in Phase 4, all of that incredibly heavy rice is loaded onto trucks in New Jersey and driven right back over the bridges into New York City traffic. Losing industrial waterfront real estate directly equals more heavy trucks forced into your daily commute. So, the big takeaway here, the stark warning from the experts, is that industrial waterfronts do not just grow back. Converting these complex port ecosystems into other types of development is a permanent decision. Once you replace those heavy-duty docks and active cranes, the capacity to move goods by water in that area is lost forever. And that practically guarantees those goods will have to be moved by truck from then on.
And that leaves us with a really big question as we wrap up this explainer. The goal here is just to help everyday people understand how vital freight is to our moving, breathing cities. We know the math. Regional freight volume is going to surge another 45%. So, how will your city balance the seemingly endless demand for online deliveries, the constant push for new real estate development, and the quality of the air you breathe? The invisible utility of freight is going to become very visible very soon. Next time you click buy online, I hope you picture the complex choices and the massive machinery operating right behind the scenes. Thanks so much for hanging out and learning with me today. Keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time.